What if one of the most important stories in a family's history was never told? What if the name of an ancestor survived, but the story of the woman who gave him life was left behind? And what if that forgotten story connected to one of the most famous rock stars in America? Today, I want to share a story that began more than 25 years ago. A story about genealogy. A story about Clinton County, New York. A story about an enslaved woman named Anne. And a story about why I believe she was the mother of Robert Elliott, one of Steven Tyler's direct ancestors. My name is Dr. Guadalupe Vanderhorst Rodriguez. I am a professional genealogist, author, historian, and founder of the Tan American Historical Association. For more than 40 years, I have researched family histories throughout New York and across the United States. Today, I want to share the research behind Steven Tyler's Clinton County ancestors and explain why this story deserves to be preserved for future generations. The beginning of the journey. My journey into this family history did not begin with television. It began years earlier. In 1999, I started researching African American, Indigenous, and mixed heritage families throughout Clinton County, New York. At the time, many of these families had received very little attention from historians. Their stories were scattered throughout census records, church records, probate files, military records, local histories, and family papers. Many names appeared only briefly, many stories were almost forgotten, but every document offered another clue. Every record brought another ancestor back into the light. Over the next decade, I devoted countless hours to documenting these families. In 2009, I published my research in a book called Tan Americans of Clinton County, New York. One of the families included in that research was the Elliott family. At the time, I had no idea that this family would later become connected to one of America's most famous musicians. The discovery of Robert Elliott. As I followed the Elliott family through the historical records of Clinton County, one question continued to emerge. Who were the parents of Robert Elliott? This may sound like a simple question, but genealogists know that many historical records are incomplete. For African American families, Indigenous families, and families affected by slavery, finding answers can be especially difficult. Many individuals appear only briefly within the historical record. Some relationships were never officially recorded. Others were hidden by the circumstances of their time. Yet clues remain, and it is our responsibility to follow those clues. The story of Anne. During my research, I encountered records associated with a woman named Anne. Anne was an enslaved woman owned by Thomas Miller of Plattsburgh, New York. One of the most important sources I discovered came through the work of Addie Shields, former Clinton County historian. According to records preserved through her research, Anne gave birth to a son named Robert around the year 1800. For genealogists, this type of information is significant. A woman named Anne, a son named Robert. The correct location, the correct time period. Suddenly, a picture begins to emerge. Could this Robert be the same Robert Elliott who later appears in Clinton County records? That question became central to my research. Following the evidence genealogy is not based upon assumptions. It is based upon evidence. Sometimes that evidence is direct. Sometimes it is indirect. And sometimes the strongest conclusions come from carefully analyzing many records together. As I studied the available documents, several important facts stood out. First, Anne is documented in Clinton County during the same period when Robert was born. Second, records indicate that she gave birth to a son named Robert. Third, Robert Elliott later appears in the same geographic area. Fourth, I found no evidence identifying another woman as Robert Elliott's mother. When these pieces are examined together, they create a compelling genealogical case. While no known document has yet surfaced that explicitly states Anne was the mother of Robert Elliott, the evidence strongly supports that conclusion. This is how genealogical research often works. We gather the evidence, we evaluate the records, we compare timelines, and we draw conclusions supported by the historical record. Why this story matters? For me, this story has never been about celebrity. It has never been about fame. It has always been about preserving history. Too often, the lives of enslaved individuals were reduced to a single line in a record book. Their voices were not preserved. Their stories were not written. Their experiences were often ignored. Yet they were mothers, fathers, children, grandparents, human beings whose lives shaped future generations. Anne was one of those individuals. Without her, there would be no Robert Elliott. Without Robert Elliott, generations of descendants would never exist. Every family tree begins with people whose names deserve to be remembered. And Anne deserves to be remembered. The television program. Years after I began this research, portions of Steven Tyler's family history were featured on the television program Who Do You Think You Are? Television programs have limited time. Researchers and producers must condense years of genealogy into a brief segment. As a result, not every detail can be included, not every document can be shown, and not every conclusion becomes part of the final broadcast. My purpose today is not to criticize the program. Rather, it is to preserve the broader historical context and share the research that contributed to understanding this family's story. Genealogy is always larger than a television episode. There are often many more records, many more questions, and many more stories waiting to be told. Preserving history for the seventh generation. One of the teachings that guides my work is the responsibility to preserve knowledge for future generations. Every family has stories. Every community has forgotten histories. Every ancestor leaves footprints behind. Sometimes those footprints are easy to find. Sometimes they are hidden within fragile records, faded documents, and overlooked archives. But they are there, waiting to be discovered, waiting to be remembered. My hope is that by sharing this research, more people will be inspired to explore their own family history and preserve the stories of those who came before them. Because genealogy is not simply about the past, it is a gift we leave to the future. Final reflection. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoy genealogy, family history, and the preservation of ancestral stories, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Please leave a comment and share your thoughts. And remember, every ancestor has a story. Every story matters. And every generation has a responsibility to preserve those stories for the seventh generation yet to come. Thank you for watching.